So, Sanjay sir, are you ready for a very interesting show? Skills you need to compete in the blockchain world.
Yes, we
I
are live. I think I didn't notice. Sorry. Okay.
so
I
let's
am
get
ready.
started.
All
The
right.
question on everyone's plate these days: how can I make money with blockchain technology?
See, the first thing to all those who are focused on making money in blockchain, I would say you do the best that you can. Money will come, right? The money doesn't come because you learned this or you learned that. Money comes because whatever you know or whatever you learn or have learned, you're really good at it. So that's the first gyan I will give you, right? Be the best version of yourself in anything that you do. Money will follow, right? So now, of course, we all know that crypto का बहुत बड़ा वो क्या बोलते हैं हवा है इस समय, right? Everybody's talking about crypto, and the underlying technology of cryptocurrencies is blockchain. And blockchain, of course, I have recorded some other videos where I've talked about what is blockchain, but in very simple words, chain of blocks. It is not a whole lot different from, I would say, a decentralized peer-to-peer database. It's like a huge database with several small zillions of small components, zillion small blocks that form the entire database. I mean, people who are from the database world, they know this very well. I mean, database, I mean, we used to talk about the SQL commands, and we used to talk about the records and all that. Here the terminology is different. We talk about block and chain of blocks, and then of course they're all secured, they're heavily secured because they are supporting the digital currencies, right? That is one of the most popular, if you will, one of the most popular, I would say, use case for using blockchain. So if you really want to talk about money in blockchain technology, I would say, at a practical level, I would say that people should focus on learning more about it. I mean, some digital currencies that you think have potential. I have talked about this earlier, that you read some blogs, read some news items, and see which ones are coming up. Bitcoin now is have crossed $50,000. I mean, which is a lot of money in many other, a lot of other countries. I myself have owned Algos, Algorand. I mean, they're from the Algorand Foundation. Algos, Ethereum. I mean, these kind of you can focus on. These are still affordable. So look at these digital currencies, invest in them. Then you will know the ecosystem. You will know, like for example, I use Coinbase to trade, right? And recently, I donated to a non-profit that is very close to my heart. I use Giving Blocks. So once you become familiar with the ecosystem, right, and that will raise your confidence level in jumping into it, even from your professional level, even from your job or your entrepreneurial dreams that you may have, right? So I think you start trading, start getting to know the ecosystem, what are the various use cases. All these things are important for you to know. These are, I would say, soft skills, right? And to before you get into the blockchain world, right? Then comes the hard skills, right? Does it make sense, Nikhil? Did I answer your question?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And from a perspective of this, continuing this conversation, so after you get into trading and investing in these digital currencies, from say a software engineer or a product guy, how can he or she make money on the blockchain? Leveraging this.
No, I think when you talk about making money, I mean, you make more money in trading cryptocurrencies than learning blockchain. I will be very, very honest about it. Huh? These days, people have left their jobs, became cryptocurrency traders, made more money. But I think you're asking about when you talk about making money, it's like, you know taking blockchain technologies or taking programming in the blockchain world as a programmer or as a developer, right? Is that what you're trying to ask, right? So if
Yes,
that is the
yes. So
case,
I would
then I
like to
think that
know
is
that
different. Yes. Go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Yes, yes, absolutely. So I would like to know that if I were a PM or a product manager or something like that, what side of things, or what should I try to invest my time in if I'm approaching it not from a trading perspective but from a building perspective. Like I want to build
Yes.
something. So what sort of stuff
Yes.
can I
So
build?
let's, I think, let's focus on building, not making money. Because as I said, you will make more money if you're smart in trading cryptocurrencies than getting into blockchain. But blockchain as a profession, right, is a very, very, I would say, amazing field. It's a, as I said earlier, that anybody who has even iota of interest in uh, you know in uh, in databases, I think would be a great person to get into blockchain. When I say IOTA, because it is at one level it is a database, but it is decentralized, scalable, highly scalable database. I mean, the extent of scalability here could be, I would say, trillions of nodes or trillions of blocks in this chain, right? I mean, it is, and it may have no limit. I mean, that could be, I mean, it's a limitless chain of blocks communicating with each other all the time in a way, in a decentralized fashion, right? So there are concepts like peer-to-peer network, the crypto technologies. Now, in my own company, MSys Technologies, we have some projects related to blockchain technologies. And when we try to hire some people, I mean, you won't find, I mean, especially in India, even in US, you won't find too many blockchain experts these days. I mean, it's still a new technology. It's almost like that. I mean, I remember when Python language first came in the programming, like, I mean, I'm talking about 10 years ago. We received a requirement from a client. Oh, we need a person with a 10-year experience in Python. I said Python was, I mean, it was, it was invented not too long ago, perhaps 12 years ago. And I mean, you could only find a person maybe who had 1 year of experience in Python. You can't find 10 years of experience in Python 10 years ago. I'm talking about the same thing in blockchain. Blockchain is fairly new. You can't really find people who have a lot of expertise in blockchain. But crypto, I mean, the given all the use cases and given the decentralized peer-to-peer nature of it, security is very important in this, unlike other databases, right? And so crypto technologies, all the PKI and all those keys that we call secure keys and all that, knowledge of those, and those kind of people would be needed, are needed here. We ourselves hiring some people who are good cryptographers and all that. And then, of course, from the language perspective, I would say the Python and the JavaScript and Node.js. I mean, a typical application which is built around blockchain, like any other application. Blockchain is the backend database, server side thing. Then you have the front end, and they have the app, and you have all those things. So you do need, in this industry, blockchain industry, overall, you do need people end to end, front end, middleware, and back end. But specifically to blockchain, peer to peer network, databases, cryptography, these are the kind of things that are needed. And of course, in the front end to middleware, the authentication, authorization, the consensus, the proof of work. There's some newer terms in this, in blockchain technology, which didn't exist in other world, non-blockchain world. Smart contracts. I mean, that's a very, I mean, some newer terms. I mean, like, anytime a new industry comes, it has its own terms, right? And so I remember once, I think we were working with in this automation, people who are from technology. They talk about DevOps, right? When the DevOps came, so what is DevOps? Oh, it's nothing but the release. I mean, the software release, a more glamorous name for software release. No, it had its own completely, its own ecosystem, its own software chains, and all that stuff. And there, there was a very interesting term we had used to have, or still have, in some automation softwares used in DevOps. They call it cookbooks. So cookbooks are, I mean, Chef. There's a company called Chef. Since Chef was a very popular company in DevOps, DevOps automation tool, as a name Chef, I mean the cook, right? So they had cookbooks. Cookbooks are nothing but documentation that one uses to automate certain software or certain hardware, or connecting certain hardware and software to some other hardware and software. So they are called cookbooks, right? So I mean, in that ecosystem, that those terminologies were very funny but very appropriate and very meaningful. Same way here in blockchain, there are certain terminologies, which are proof of work is a very very important consensus, because you cannot really change a block in blockchain without there being consensus, right? It's like a democratized, decentralized world, right? So consensus, proof of work, smart contracts, I mean, all these things are terms which anybody who wants to become a developer or entrepreneur in blockchain world needs to understand, right? So they should get some hands-on experience, learn, and these are not difficult. I can assure you that a good programmer in Python, good programmer in Java, good programmer in database or cryptography can learn all these things in a heartbeat. Meaning a longer heartbeat, I would say maybe a few days or a few weeks, right? But can learn it, can do some sample code, and can become very good at it. I mean, it's not it's not rocket science, literally. It's not rocket science, right? So
So, what would be something simple you would, suggest someone to start with, if a project or something like that, which they should try to work on to start off first?
I would say if someone, I would say peer-to-peer database or a decentralized database, right, would be a good way to start learning this, right? And I mean that if you are from that side of the house, if you are from the front side of the house or the crypto side of the house, then you should learn about smart contracts and some other development tools which are used in or ledger. I mean, you can uh, I mean, Nikhil, this blockchain or cryptocurrencies, this is one field where commerce and technologies, they converge. That is the beauty of this, right? Why it is gaining so much, because we have had technologies and technologies forever, but this is the first time the technology world has in a way tried to cross over to the commerce world.
And I guess art
Not
also with NFTs.
Yeah, and of course the art, and but behind or underlying thing in even in art, there in NFT is the commerce. Of course, we had e-commerce. I mean, we all know e-commerce, right? So that was the first time they tried to get into commerce. But here, they are aiming for what governments do, establishing a currency. That's why there are people who want to regulate. Why there is so much talk about regulation? This is not good. This is that. Because all of a sudden people are thinking they're going to lose control. It's like a few years ago, Walmart thought they're going to lose control to Amazon. Now, of course, Walmart and they themselves are a strong player in e-commerce, right? The brick and mortar players were threatened by pure e-commerce plays. Now, same way, the pure currency plays, which are the governments, are being threatened by digital currencies now, which is underlying thing is blockchain. So that's, I think, what a person can do at a developer level, programmer level. Learn about databases, learn about cryptos. I mean, one of the, not all of them, and learn some tools, smart contract development tools, Solidity. That's another one of them, and learn these things. Do some small projects as part of those tools, and then and you can also, I mean, simple security concepts like authentication, authorization, mining is another term that is used very often there, and things like that. So hopefully this will help you be on your way to become a good blockchain developer, and
So,
as you keep asking, make money out of that.
moving on to the next part, with this leads very nicely to my next question. So, can you start a blockchain company without any programming experience?
I mean, trading. So blockchain has its own ecosystem, like other industries have had, right? And trading is one, right? I mean, without programming experience, you can of course learn. I mean, blockchain, developing codes in blockchain are fairly easy. programming interfaces or programming languages used here are not a whole lot different from the regular software, and you are actually not required to be a I would say hyperscale hyperscale web developer or anything. I mean, if you learn Python, it, you learn end to end all the things used in a blockchain application, and you can develop simple ones easily, right? And people are now using blockchain to develop strategies for their companies. I mean, which means what are they doing? They're asking everybody. It's again a glorified or enhanced version of surveying hundreds of thousands of people in a large corporation and making sure everybody's input is taken and analyzed, synthesized to come up with the strategy. The blockchain use case, right? Anytime decentralized, democratized process is needed, blockchain is the name, right? Where nobody can be allowed to change any of the records. That it's not that if I don't like somebody's feedback, I can go and change it. No, you cannot change it, right? Unless everybody's consensus is there, right? So that's the some of the concepts you people understand. Then you realize that blockchain can be used in any environment. Even in a small household of 5 people, and you can use blockchain as a process. Right? Everybody's opinion is a block that is chained to the other person's opinion, and nobody can change their opinion. Right? Should we go to the next one? So it seems like I have lost Nikhil. So I think I'll go to the next question myself. I think the next question somebody asks is blockchain overhyped? See, it is, it's a very interesting technology, and which is helping already. I am not going to say can help. It is helping in solving a lot of issues in the current environment in real life. As I said, even in as small as a household. I mean, when pandemic first hit, people realized the value of remote communication. I mean, families started communicating using Zoom or other kind of video conferencing software uh, all over the world. I mean, I myself, I was in Atlanta. I was communicating with my mom in Bangalore using Zoom or using, that was before the era of WhatsApp video calls, and we were all using Zoom or Google Meet or something like that at that time. So, same way, I would say the time for this. I mean, the events of last several years have led to the industry's realization for blockchain. And blockchain has now found its way into a variety of use cases, right? And there is a great scope in many markets for blockchain. People are using it to develop their strategies. People are using it to, I mean, anywhere where, again, I would say decentralized, democratized, peer-to-peer process has to be run. Blockchain is the way to go, right? So, I mean, they say Walmart uses blockchain for its growth. I'm sure they have. There are many companies who are using blockchain in different parts of their. So blockchain. The moment we say blockchain, people think crypto, and then it's hype. No, blockchain is a technology. It's a peer-to-peer database. So from that perspective, it's needed. It's needed in many areas, and it can find its way into many applications.
Moving on, my next question is very important one. This was something which a lot of people wanted to know. The thing is, it's extremely difficult to find where and what, uh, where can you learn about blockchain properly, because there's so many different sources. And so, what would you suggest? How should someone go about this process? And
It's
what
a
was
very
your
good
journey of
question, and
educating
yeah,
yourself?
yeah, no, I think it's a very good question, and unfortunately, uh, there is no authentic source, if I may say so, right? There is no authentic source, yet. There are blockchain, I would say, courses, blogs, and all that. But I think depending upon the kind of portal people use, I mean, if they're using Udemy or Coursera or something like that, I think, I mean, all of these now have courses on blockchain, and people can use that and use those because they are credible. I mean, they do have some credible courses conducted by some credible instructors. And I mean, unfortunately, YouTube and all these other places do have good information, but not going deep into it. I mean, people are still trying to scratch the surface. I mean, I before this live stream today, I was just checking YouTube myself. I mean, people are just trying to define blockchain at a very, very surface level, without going deep into it. I mean, there are people, your regular YouTubers or bloggers. I mean, they want to ride on this wave. So I think we should perhaps, I mean, should go deeper into this concept so that people can really have at least some authentic information as part of free YouTube resource, right?
This
I
follow
think
this
I'll come up with that. Yes.
a follow-up question for this is, you have investments in blockchain, so how did you learn about it and how did you do your due diligence?
See, I think I tell you that. I think it's a very good question. I mean, I it was really a by accident, I would say. Incidentally, one of our clients, which was in the reward redemption software space. Every time you fly on Delta, or use a credit card, you all get reward points, right? And so we were working with a client of ours, and we did the software for them, which was in the this reward redemption space. And we found, I mean, you may have, if you have used these reward points ever before, you may have noticed that it takes you a while to redeem these points, right? uh, because, I mean, suppose you have, like in my case, I have 400,000 points on Delta. um, I'm a multi-million miler on Delta Airlines. So if I every time I want to book a ticket, I want to redeem, at least 3 4 years ago, it used to take a while. I mean, I had to send the request, somebody will process the request, half a day later I'll get the acknowledgement our ticket has been booked using those reward points. So that client of ours also was kind of working with Chase and City and few others, and that was a problem statement they also had, because there is a centralized place for all these points, where central clearing house, if you will. So it was a centralized database where it has to all go to, and then transaction has to be approved, verified, and then sent back. So it was a classic use case for blockchain. So we started discussing with them that, can we speed this up? Can it be made instantaneous approval? That is the largest benefit of using blockchain kind of technology, right? That I'm transferring, let's say, a large sum of money from US to India or vice versa. I would get instantaneous approval and transfer. I mean, I have done that recently, as I mentioned, through Coinbase. From recently large, I mean, within, I would say, 1 or 2 seconds, I was able to do that, and the money showed up at the other end. Whereas in a typical banking transaction environment, it goes through one bank, another bank, clearing out this, that, through various routes. It comes and then it doesn't show up. Then you have to call somebody, or is it there in the account? And then the guy checks, and the guy calls the manager. I mean, that can go on and on. Here it is all driven by a chain of blocks, which are governing, which are authorizing the transaction, which are clearing the transaction, and making the transfer. So that's how I learned about it, through a client of ours, and then we built actually a proof of concept for them. Though the company got acquired, incidentally, the company got acquired by a much larger digital asset management company, which, one of the assets they wanted people to manage. They had their own app or their own software, which allowed people to manage, besides reward points, was their cryptocurrencies and other blockchain assets people had. So of course we are now deeper into it. And besides that, I think I also, there are a lot of blockchain focused funds, venture funds, or early stage angel funds that I'm part of, where We look at newer technology, scalability. I mean, for all the hype or all the money that Bitcoin generates for many people in their ecosystem, it has a real problem of lack of scalability. You know, it is so there are a lot of newer currencies, a lot of newer technologies are coming to provide scalability to that. So I think I mean, there are a lot of problems to be solved. It's a newer thing, just like e-commerce few years ago. It is a newer thing, and a lot of new innovation, room for innovation is there. So those listeners, I will say, get into it. I cannot give you all the ideas of innovation. That is all your ideas. You learn once you learn the full ecosystem, then you use this and your entrepreneurial spirit from the heart to get into it. And you will find there are many problems waiting to be solved in the blockchain world.
This very nicely, we have a question. So, like how in 2011, 2010, 2011, when the App Store was released, and the developers who learned about how to deploy app stores, actually apps on app stores and build apps, actually made a lot of money. Again, I'm I know you don't want me to use that word, but I would love to know that what are the
There
sort of
are opportunities.
jobs.
I got your question. So there are many
Yeah.
opportunities like that, but you have to understand the ecosystem. There is something called Helium network. Okay, that is a very new Helium HNT. That's the name of the ticker they have. I forgot, Helium Network Technology or something. Helium is going to be their cryptocurrency, but underlying technology of that Helium, they already have few hundred million nodes around the world. They are using hardware nodes they're using distributed processing using these hundreds of millions of nodes all over the world. And they feel that their technology, which is based on blockchain, will eventually be used for, not eventually, in fact, they have some clients now, will be used for supporting 5G. A typical 5G deployment can only be done by large telecom players who have a lot of money to get their cell towers, all over the country or world and all that. I mean, we all know that, right? I mean, if you're switching to, like, we have T-Mobile 5G in US, and T-Mobile really invested in getting the cell, upgrading their cell towers to support 5G, right? And they say that there may be another upgrade coming that will be real 5G or something like that. But now Helium, through its nodes, which are there in hundreds of millions of locations, is able to process data at 5G speeds. So if, let's say, tomorrow Vodafone or Geo wants to go to 5G, instead of doing their own cell tower, they can lease the processing network of HNT. So I hope I made a bit clear. Now
And
I'm
that is
coming to the
powered
point.
and authenticated by blockchains.
By this underlying technology is blockchain. Now,
Wow.
why I'm telling you that is, now HNT has, so in this network, there is a crypto, and there are a lot of apps which will run on that. So once somebody understands that ecosystem, you will find what all you can develop. And you can develop, Helium will give you, Helium will have its own. I mean, these are not going to be your Apple. I mean, Helium is not going to become part of your, like, every an extra organ in every human being's life. I mean, like, smartphones have become, but it will have large enough deployment for people to make money. And what is
Okay.
happening here is that, one of the companies I invested in, they developed some app. Basically, I think what they were doing was using in gaming currency on Helium. Right, that's one of the applications. How do you give rewards to people who win a certain level of the game using in app currency, which is Helium, right? Gaming app, right? Now you have Helium crypto, Helium coin, 0.001 coin. Now, when you got it, it was perhaps equivalent of half 50 cents. Now it has become $5, as an example. So you can make a lot of money, right?
Yep. So we have another question. Crypto is decentralized, meaning there's no central regulation. So, like, that's such a new concept. How do you trust it?
दिल की सुनो या दिल की सुनो दुनिया वालों, right? Nikhil? No, well, I think about. Sorry to say this. I'm very musically inclined, as you know. So it's a good question. How do you trust it? See, there is no single point of failure in this. You trust a government A. I will not name the country. Tomorrow, the president, prime minister of that country comes and demonetizes certain currency, right? You trust the president of country B, and he only is there for himself because he himself is a big businessman. Every single decision he does, helps real estate investors. Everybody goes to hell. Are these the people you want to trust your last dollar with, in place of trusting many people who are like you, part of the chain, and it's consensus driven, right? It's for those who don't have, if I may say, who don't have daddy issues. Sorry to say, the daddy issues. You always want to listen to somebody. Either you have a lot of issues with somebody with authority, or you always need somebody with authority. It's for, it's not for those with daddy issues,
Very
right?
interesting take on for whom crypto is.
Crypto is for those who are bindas, who are ya dil ki suno dunya walo, who are heartful, who are, I mean, come on, you know, I mean,
it's
people.
it's
I
a
mean,
community. It's the hardcore.
it's a
It's the
community.
algorithm version of the community, right?
It's a algorithm version of the community. It's where you can your opinion matters, right? Your
Very
block
interesting.
matters. Your block matters. Your opinion matters. Your money matters.
That's very nice way of putting it. So this was it for the today's session, Sanjay. Uh, we've covered all of the questions which have come in, and of course we'll be sharing this small snippets of these videos later on in the channel as well. So if you've missed any part initially, please do subscribe. Sanjay sir, any parting words for our viewers?
Well, blockchain is not scary. It's not insecure. It's not a hawa. It's something that is being used in some real life applications around you, whether you know it or not. So it's already being used. It's not a future technology. So get on board, guys. Good luck.
Thank you
Thank you.
guys. See you next week. Bye bye.